This is Duke University.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Bill McDermott, the CEO of leading enterprise software application company, SAP. He also happens to be the father of a Duke undergrad and a member of Fuqua's Board of Visitors. Bill began his career as an entrepreneur. In high school, he worked for a deli in Long Island that he quickly bought and ran to fund his education and his way through Dowling College, where he unsurprisingly studied business management. After completing university, Bill sold Country Deli and went on to work for Xerox for 17 years, where he rose from sales professional to become the company's youngest division president. During his time with Xerox, Bill also received his MBA from Kellogg School of Business and went on to complete the Executive Development Program at the Wharton School. He was then picked up for top positions at Gartner and Siebel CRM Systems before SAP tapped him in 2002 to become the CEO of SAP America. In 2010, Bill made history by becoming the first American to hold the CEO position of a European multinational organization. And as he's risen through the ranks, he's always remembered to give back. Bill is committed to investing in and empowering young leaders. Last year, he hosted the inaugural We the Future Summit and has been recognized by multiple organizations ranging from City Year to the American Australian Association, We Are the Family Foundation, and the Children's Aid Society of New York City. Bill also advises world leaders and policymakers on issues including youth unemployment, digital government, and international trade policy. He's an excellent example of what it means to be a consequential leader, and we are very honored to have him here with us tonight. Please join me in extending a warm Fuqua welcome to Mr. Bill McDermott.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nicole. That was sweet to be with you, Bill. So, Bill, welcome. It's great to have you back here. It's hard to believe it's been 4 years since you've been here. During that time, he announced that he really was a Duke person, that this Northwestern thing was just a blip, and that really he believed in this place. And the extraordinary thing is that in the 4 years that have followed, you've really shown that you're a Duke person. You got your son here, and you've supported the business school, so it's fantastic to welcome you back. So one of the things that you were really taken by when you were here back then was this whole idea of leader of consequence. Why did that phrase resonate with you so much?
Well, first of all, Bill, thank you for having me. It's great to be back with you again, and I hope I can live up to that introduction. That was really wonderful, Nicole. Thank you for the beautiful words. And it's an honor to be with my son, John. You know, of all the things I've ever accomplished, I'm most proud of my wife and sons, and it's just great to be with John. In terms of leadership of consequence and leader of consequence, I got that from you, and I really thought about that, and you were very humble, as you always are. And it really struck me that you can get anything in this life you want if you help enough other people get what they want. And I think leader of consequence to me means a person that's willing to go beyond the call of duty in service to other people so they accomplish their dreams and their goals. And at the time, it resonated with me with the book Winner's Dream and all the things I believe in about leadership. Consequential leadership is having that vision, but also recognizing that it's only achieved through great people and surrounding yourself with people that are so much better than you, and being humble and empathetic and understanding that it's not about you, it's about the cause. And if enough people care, you can achieve anything.
So you've achieved quite a bit, and one of the things that's changed since we last spoke is that you went from co-CEO to CEO. Right. What was the biggest effect of that change?
Well, you know, when we were co-CEOs in 2010, it's what the company needed then. As you know, we were coming off the financial crisis of 2008. 2009 was a relatively slow recovery for the world, and SAP made a CEO change. And it was really important to have one office of the CEO with two friends that really wanted to make a difference. and a lot of things needed to be done to build the company, build a strategy, do some major M&A moves, and get the company set up for growth again. And once that was done, then it became necessary to build on the vision, but make much quicker decisions, move at a pace that was even beyond the pace we were moving at, which was pretty fast. And at that point, SAP needed that person that could make the call and be very, very decisive. And fortunately, things seem to be going pretty well. I think the root cause of why things are going well is, in terms of leaders of consequence, we basically put the company on a vision to help the world run better and improve people's lives. And the help the world run better part was taking our true essence, our core, what we were good at, and being mindful and respectful of that, but not living on the past. We asked ourselves the tough question: if we weren't around, would anyone care? Would anyone even notice? And when the answer came back, yeah, probably we're in 25 industries, 193 countries, companies run their entire business on our software. And if we didn't deliver for them, they couldn't do their business. So we do matter. But the world was headed in a different direction. It was going to the cloud. The cloud's the pervasive computing theme of the 21st century. The data models and the data appliances and technologies of the 20th century couldn't keep pace with data doubling in the world every 12 to 18 months. We also knew that business within a company was important, but commerce and business transactions between companies, where you leverage a large inter-enterprise network of business, would be the big idea. And by taking all of that and inventing HANA, reinventing the ERP with S4 HANA, which is now the flagship ERP in the world, making $30 billion in M&A moves, and extending to machine learning, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, has just brought us into an addressable market that is easily 10 times the size of the market we were chasing up to 2010. Mm-hmm. So the evolution of a great strategy really does need decisiveness, swiftness, and passion and execution. But I can tell you, Bill, had it not been for purpose in getting 85,000 women and men of consequence to care, it could have never been achieved.
So you understand that you have to have substance. You can't have this great growth story without the substance behind it. But you also understand the power of symbolism. And during your career in various places, like even while you were at Xerox and there's heavy cost cutting, you were putting on big events. Yeah. And you talk about the power of pageantry. Was that a struggle in a German company with its roots in being software engineers to get them to accept your ideas around the power of pageantry?
At times. There was one time in particular, we put this event together for winners, and we call it the Winner Circle, where people perform at beyond expectations levels, and we celebrate their wins once a year. And what I believe is that when you have a family and you travel for a living and you go beyond expectations, you probably made a lot of sacrifices. Sometimes there's birthdays on the line and various anniversaries that are missed or delayed. So you have to recognize that when you reward somebody, don't pull them away from what they love the most, which is their family and the things that they love to do. So we created an event that was a winner's circle that embraced families, embraced kids, embraced extended families, and we provided an environment where everyone celebrated together. Now, I have to tell you, in an environment where there might have been a cost-cutting mentality or celebrations weren't as appreciated as I appreciate them, it wasn't an easy sell. But there was one meeting in particular where my boss came in and said, Bill, this winner circle thing, this has to go. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, we just have to think of a different way. We're cutting everything. We're going to cut this too. I said, that's fine. Just be sure you're making that decision with all the facts. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, that means this is a badge moment, and you get to keep my badge, and I get to go home early today. So you sure you don't want to do that? Oh, what do you mean? I said, I mean that we are not going to change what we started. We're going to double down on it. These are the people that carry the company, and we got to be behind these people. In fact, I want to make it bigger than ever. Are you sure you really are putting this on the line? Oh, I'm positive. So how long is it going to take you to make this decision? Oh, come on, we have to compromise. No, we're not going to compromise. The decision's been made. Am I going home early, or are we going to go with winner circle? Okay, we're going with winner circle. What else can we do? So there are these moments where if you believe in something, even if it's controversial, you have to have the character and the passion to fight for it.
So that's a good example of what I think of as your extraordinary sales ability. And you've had this gift from when you were a child and you started your deli and you cut all kinds of deals. You have been able to sell your vision. I mean, you continue to sell. How did you develop this selling capability?
Well, I think really, in the book, Winner's Dream, I say everything I was, am, and ever will be, I owe it all to you. And that was dedicated to my mother, Kathy McDermott. And I think growing up with very young parents, my mom was 18 when she had me, my dad was 21, and they had all the pleasures that go along with a young marriage and family, and all the pain of being broke. And just seeing the struggles made me realize that, I want something more for them and I want something more for me. But also, I was at all the adult conversations, listening, always observing, always learning. And from that, being in the room concept, I learned, I think, the power of persuasion. Most importantly, my mom said to me one day, the best part of you is you. Just be you. And I think it takes people a while to trust that and to trust themselves to be their authentic, true selves and let it out. Like, don't hold it in. Like, what are you waiting for? So, doing paper routes, painting fences for the town, stocking shelves, busboy, working in the delicatessen, balancing all that with school, always wanting to be somebody. It just teaches you that you can't be somebody unless you are willing to connect with other people. And if you can help them get what they want, they'll help you get what you want. And the deli, I think, was the lesson above all lessons. Back then, I just tried to consolidate 3 part-time jobs into one. And, the deli was the ultimate experience because, I didn't know anything about market segmentation or management, but I knew that it wouldn't be a bad idea if a 16-year-old kid can own a store. I didn't have the money, but somebody was willing to give me a loan, and then if I paid off the loan, I kept the store. If I didn't, I gave everything back and lost it all. But that was a risk I was willing to take. Well, what did I learn from the power of persuasion? If that customer doesn't walk through that door and doesn't feel happy when they leave, they don't come back. So, whether it was blue-collar workers like my dad that were flush rich on Friday night and broke by Sunday morning, we gave them credit. Just sign for whatever you want. I know you were going to pay me back. And then there was the senior citizens. What I learned about them is they didn't want to leave the house, so we deliver. See, the little one has to figure out what the big one doesn't want to do or is structurally unable to do. But the hard part was solving the problem with the kids, walking a block and a half past 7-Eleven. These are the high school kids now. why are they going to walk a block and a half to my store? You better go down there and find out. So I went down there one day, and there's 40 in line waiting to get into 7-Eleven. There's only 4 inside this big old store. So I said, why are you all waiting out here when there's a big store in there? They said, well, Bill, they think we're going to take things. I said, don't worry about all that. You follow me, come with me down to my store. And by then, we changed the business model. We built a video game room. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, there once was a time where people had to put quarters into machines to play video games. And there were 2 in particular that were really hot, Asteroids and Pac-Man. So basically, we built them a game room, let them in 40 at a time. Have your food, have your drinks, enjoy yourself. No one's going to take anything. And to underscore the importance of the power of persuasion and treating your customers beautifully, young man said to me at the end of a long day, Bill, when we want to have a good time, eat well, and play video games, we come here to your store. And when we want to steal stuff, we go to 7-Eleven.
So there are 3 things that you think of as being absolutely critical to great leadership: humility, passion, and vision. And I want to unpack each of these one at a time. So humility, I know you like to say none of us is smarter than all of us.
Right.
And I guess the question I have for you is how did you learn the power of unlocking the potential of the people around you? And the key thing really is being humble enough to pay attention. And did you ever get a lesson like you say, hey, I'm all that, and got kind of knocked back in a way where you were reminded that there is this power of the group that can do amazing things?
Absolutely, Bill. I mean, I get reminded of the power of the group every day. And in every day, there's some type of knockback where you learn something new and you're humbled by all the things that you don't know. And my secret on this is I do the things I do well often, and I don't do the things I don't do so well at all. I hire the best people I can find. If they're not better than me at every job type, then I've not served myself well as a leader of consequence. And if I'm not slightly embarrassed by all the things they know that I don't know, I'm not the right leader for that group. So I think that's the key to this humility, to have the self-confidence and the appreciation for human capital and celebrate talent, love talent, and let that talent be free. And every day I learn something new from somebody that knows so much more than me. And that's what makes great teams.
Yeah. Okay, so passion.
Yeah.
So you've worked in a number of different companies, and you've always found that passion. So the question is, do you have to have the passion before you move into the role, or do you look to find the passion? Do you look for the things that get you excited and build and kindle that passion, or do you have to go to it to find it?
I think the best way I could answer that, maybe a little story, if you'll allow me. When I left that delicatessen, and I was, like you all, coming out of university and trying to be somebody, I realized that, with my $99 suit from the mall, I was ready to go. And we lived in a 1,000 square foot house in Amityville, Long Island, and that day there was a strong nor'easter, and the house always flooded when there was a strong nor'easter. And that day we had 4.5 foot of water in the house. So my brother grabbed me on the 5th step from the bottom, put me on his shoulder, carried me out to my dad's car, and he drove me to Long Island Railroad tracks. And as we're in this ride, I'm passionate. I tell my dad, this is my day, I'm pumped up. Thank you for making sure my suit was dry, let's go. And I get to the Long Island Railroad, I go up the escalator, I start reading the annual report on Xerox. And there was a CEO reinventing the company. But the words that I never forgot are the ones that I said to my dad before I left the car. Dad, I guarantee you, when I come home tonight, I will have my employee badge in my pocket. My dad said, Bill, you're a good kid. Just do the best you can. I said, nope, I guarantee it. I get to top of the sixes in Manhattan. Now, after reading the annual report, making the promise to my dad, you talk about passion, I'm on fire. But then I get to top of the sixes, and I see all these magnificent young people, women and men, unbelievable like you, went to the great schools like Duke, and I'm asking them, you know, what are you doing here? Because I'm so nervous in my $99 suit from Long Island, being in this crowd from Greenwich and Princeton and all these very affluent places, going to the best schools. I said, man, maybe I overshot it a little bit with my dad. I'm in trouble here. So when you're in trouble like that, there's two things you could do. You could panic and blow it, or you could just say, let me just be me. And what am I good at? I'm good at starting conversations. 500 people walk in and out of the deli every day. So what I would say is, what are you in here for? What are you doing? What's your goal? What are you trying to achieve? Well, you know, I'm interviewing with IBM and Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs, and I'm kind of playing the field. And I went around the room, and I'm like, okay, I got a feel for the team here. What are they trying to do? And what I realized is this passion thing is huge, because I was getting new energy from every conversation. Do you know why? Because I wanted it so much more than they did. And by the time I went around that room once, I'm like, this is my day. I'm gonna get that badge. And by the time I got to the last interview, they sent me uptown to 9 West 57th, and I'm sitting out on a bench, and the assistant's over there at her desk. Joanne Siciliano was her name. Never forget names. I walk over to her. I said, Joanne, I just want to let you know, I'm in no rush. Mr. Fullwood may or may not remember that I'm here, because I've been here for a little while. I'll wait all night. Just let him know I'm here. She goes in with that message. I get invited right into his office. We sit down just like you and I are. At the end of a great conversation, now let me explain to you. I walk through the hearth of this doorway, looking out onto Central Park. This is a dignified gentleman like your dean, very sharp like your dean. And I am 21 years old and full of life, and I wasn't interviewing. I was in a battle for my life, because I said, if I get this job today, I can dictate the pace of my future on my terms. This is my moment. We get to the end of the interview. We said, Bill, this is a great interview. Really, thank you. And the HR department's going to get in touch with you in the next couple of weeks. What? I said, Mr. Fullwood, I don't think you completely understand the situation, sir. And I tilt my head a little bit, and he tilts his head more. I said, I haven't broken a promise to my dad in 21 years, and I can't start now. I guaranteed my dad I was going to have that employee badge in my pocket tonight when I'm back to Amityville. And he looks at me, and now it's a big tilt, you know. What's this kid up to? And I said, Bill McDermott, as long as you haven't committed any crimes, you're hired. And I said, well, Mr. Fullwood, I certainly haven't committed any crimes. Does that mean I'm hired? You sure, man? And he goes, yes, you are. So in true Bill McDermott fashion, I get up, walk around the table, pick him up, bear hug him a little bit. But Bill, I did put him down safely. He was all right. And I go down 38 floors, go out to 57th and 6th, and believe it or not, you had to put quarters in phones then. I call up my mom and dad. I said, Mom and Dad, break out the Corbel. We're going to celebrate. I got the job. Now, for those of you that don't know, Corbel is the cheapest champagne ever made. Literally, poison. But it tasted good that night. So this passion thing it's in you. It has to be you. And the whole thing is finding out, for all of you, what that groove is that really turns you on, that makes you who you are. And was I certain that that was the ultimate destination for me? No. And I don't think anyone is. But you gotta play a hand sometimes and then make it something. So that's how I looked at it.
All right, so that passion is still with you today. And in addition to the passion, the humility, there's the vision,
Yes.
that vision thing. And so the vision for SAP is help the world run better and improve people's lives,
Right.
which is an incredible vision. How did you develop vision skills? Because it's so important to build passion in others and make them want to be a part of your teams.
Exactly. Well, one of the things at a basic level is thinking big, and really big. I don't mean just like a little big, I mean like really big. And 90% of the people in the world don't have goals. 10% of the people in the world do. Only 1% of the 10% of the people that do have goals actually write them down and commit to them with their mind, their body, and their spirit. So being one of those people gives you a great advantage. So I think this goal orientation at a human level is so important. It's not important that you put goals out there for other people, that you put goals out there for you, who you are in the dark when no one's watching. Who are you really? That's the goal set. Now, with a team orientation, I always try to think about the deli, because if I think about it, you have to do things that others don't to find your sweet spot. You have to address the largest possible markets you can with your innovation and your services. You have to give the customer an unmatched, unequaled level of service compared to anybody else. So I think it's figuring out what you are really in your core as a business. Never desert your core. You have to always keep the main thing the main thing. Constantly reinvent the core, because that's your essence. But then use the core as your strategic weapon to carry you into new markets, into new categories, into new places that are larger and carry a bigger dream with them than the original idea. But don't desert the original idea or the core to find the new frontier. Emanate from the core, because then you have permission, you have a base, you have an argument to wage, and you have thousands, if not smaller companies, hundreds of people that can help you advance the cause. Sometimes you will build it because you can. Other times you'll partner with others who do things you don't do. And sometimes you have to go on a shopping spree and buy things. And I always had the philosophy that even if I pay a little too much, because sometimes you have to get the best asset, the best leaders, the best cultures, the best fit, with teamwork and trust and an orientation around a common goal and a shared vision, you can create a new world that no one ever dreamed of before you had the idea, if you're a dreamer, if you've got the winner's dream. And that's been the secret sauce all along.
Yeah. So another way to put this, that you've actually self-described yourself in this way, which is a relentless optimist. Yes. That you always have that dream. Where does that come from, and how do you sustain that when life knocks you back?
Well, I give all the credit to my mom, because she was a relentless optimist. I mean, this is a woman that could see a house flood or a house be on fire and look back at it with her kids standing at her side in the street and say, there's nothing in that house that is as important as the things outside that house. This is a moment to celebrate. Wow. Wow. That's character. That's optimism. And I always believe that there's so many people in the world that have it worse than you, no matter what your set of circumstances are. And you should always have your chin up. and be a leader of consequence. The other piece about optimism is it's the only free stimulus there is in the world. It is absolutely a force multiplier of goodness. If people always look at a problem and see the danger zone or see the negativity, there's never a problem-solving orientation. There's never a better future. There's only a miserable present. And I never wanted people intellectually to be in that zone because I always felt it was my really right and opportunity to go someplace better. That is kind of the psychology behind it, and it's just totally natural not to want to be stuck in bad things when you can go for good things and you could be the best.
Yeah. So sometimes bad things happen.
Yes.
And you experienced a horrific accident.
Yes.
Loss of vision in an eye.
Yeah.
And your response to that, which was, how could I get this lucky?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, how could something like that happen to you and that you would have that response?
It's an amazing thing that happens to a person. You know, I had a terrible fall and was all alone in a pretty dangerous place. And, you know, your mind basically is very kind to you. Your mind will tell you, it's okay, lay down, go to sleep. Because if you decide to get up, life is going to get a whole lot harder on you. Your mind's very rational. Just take it easy now. You've done enough. But then there's that thing called your will, where you think about your wife and kids, the 85,000 women and men, great friendships, brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers. And you're like, this is not where it's going to end. I've got to find a way. And when you find a way to get up, get out, and get on with it, no matter what it takes, you become a very lucky person. It's fascinating to me that before all this, I used to look at a forest and I could see lots of trees. I knew there was a running stream with a mountain with snow-capped tops, and it was beautiful. But I saw a lot of trees. Now I see a tree here or there, but my mind goes right to that running stream, right to that mountain with the snow-capped tops, and I see a bright future so quick. So I think, you know, we are a function of our experiences, and the more that you learn, not just from the things that made you happy, but the things that tested you to the limit, is when you start to understand what you're capable of. And I know that I've not even scratched the surface of what's possible. And that's really a blessing. That's really a blessing.
So this is a little bit of a tricky segue here, but one of the things that's testing the limits of business leaders these days is the collision between business and politics, and that you're being put in a position to have to make decisions about when you speak out, when you remain silent, you know, what issues do you weigh in on? And Adam Silver was here and spoke to the students back in December, and was talking about his decision to pull the All-Star game from Charlotte. And when I asked him to explain how he'd gone through that, he said, "Well, I talked to Bill McDermott." So there we have it. So I'm curious, when you also sit on the board of Under Armour,
Right.
and Kevin Plank got himself in the public eye when he made some comment like Trump is an asset, and then his most important athlete responded in a very unhappy way. So these are the kinds of things that you have to deal with. So how do you cope with these kinds of issues? How do you advise people like Adam and Kevin and then deal with your own issues, which I'll get to?
Yeah. Well, I think that, whether it's the difficulty of a life-threatening event, it's your day-to-day business. People say to me, man, that was really hard, or there's a hard situation that you're in. That must have built a lot of character in you. To which I am perfectly sure, it's not that it built character, it revealed the character, which is the sum total of all the good, hardworking, empathetic things that you bring to the world each and every day. And in moments of controversy, they always shine through. So what I believe is that people that run companies, people that are in charge of important objectives that involve thousands of people's lives, have to really think more about what they are paid to do, what their purpose is, and stay ever true to that, even if there is some controversy associated with a position that they take. I would say most all of the time, I don't get involved in the political points of view for the sake of weighing in on that, but I do care a lot about how certain things might impact the people that have been entrusted to my care. And I have been known to take positions on that, no matter who or what party might be in charge. With regard to any government in any part of the world, our job is to help them run better and improve people's lives. So my focus would be on creating transparency, delivery of an administration's objectives, helping them to achieve their goals. When I think about the public sector today, I think about a digital cabinet room that is associated with 5 or 6 of the administration's top goals. How are they going to achieve them? How do they see that in real time? And how can we help them be successful? How can we help them serve the 330 million constituents within a country, whether they voted for the candidate or they didn't? They all want the country to win. I've had those kinds of meetings in various theaters of the world, and that always works because it's authentic. I'm doing my job, they're doing their job, and we're all trying to help the people do better.
Yeah. So that's good unless those things seem to come into conflict.
Right.
And so as an example, when Trump signed the first executive order on immigration, you sent the following, I'm not going to read the whole thing,
Sure.
but an excerpt from an email that you sent to the 85,000 people working at SAP, which said, every single one of us will always stand up for each other. We will protect each other's human rights.
Yes.
So what went through your head in terms of making the decision to take what was in a private stand within the company, but of course immediately got into the media?
Yeah. I don't put anything in a conversation, whether it's verbal or in writing, without the understanding that that's a matter of public record. Because I'm good with that. If I took a position on something, it's because I felt that that particular issue impacted 180 women and men in our company in a very negative way at that moment in time. And I felt that it was incumbent on the other 84,820 to stand up for them, because that's my job, and that's what I'm supposed to do, in my way of thinking. And I felt that that was appropriate. And what's amazing is, since then, things have come back to the middle, where it's not such an extreme point of view, and things are functioning very well. And the people in the company, I think, really appreciated an authentic moment. And I do believe that that's what leaders are supposed to do.
So you clearly have a lot of work to do still at SAP, but you have not ruled out a political future at some point. Why is that?
Well, I think that, what motivates me or inspires me as a person is having the greatest possible impact that I can on the largest number of people that I can. And right now, if we look at what we're planning for this year, we'll have nearly 100,000 people by the time this year is done, and we'll have 2.5 million people in the open ecosystem of SAP that in some way collect their paycheck and have their business model attached to the things that we can do to help the world run better and improve people's lives. And that's fantastic. And I'm inspired by this. I love this work. I love this job, and I really enjoy it. But someday, if I could help society and the people in it, and I felt that it was authentic and based upon real content and a real mission and a real purpose, if I could get behind something and my services were required, I don't think there's anything more rewarding in the world than to be in service to other people. And if there's, very, very large groups of people, that makes me go. That's what makes me tick.
So I'm going to ask you one more question and then turn it over to the audience for questions, which is, you passionately believe in the transformational power of business, and so this is, we're talking something in the future here. But we have an issue, which is, even though business is such a powerful force, there are many people who don't trust business to be a positive, powerful force. Sure. How do we actually be able to regain the trust of people so that we can unlock the potential of business to improve lives?
You have to do it with your deeds and your actions. Words are one thing, but actions speak a lot louder than words. My interpretation of this is that the things that you can do good for society, you can do because you're doing well. So I think business has a purpose to be successful. There's no business that's poorly performing or isn't satisfying customers and delivering their promise that can do a lot of good for society. Because those are the kinds of companies that are spinning out of control, they're not successful, and they're always fighting in a chaotic environment. So you have to do your job. But the way you do your job can also improve people's lives and society. In a simple way, you can make beautiful software that's easy to use and makes people's lives a lot better because you made it simple. In a social context, getting young people and dealing with youth unemployment issues, where in theaters of Europe, we're operating where 50% of the youth is unemployed. I go into the Middle East, sometimes the percentages are even higher. So we partner with the public sector and the private sector. We create boot camps. We create training camps. We hire thousands of people. Our ecosystem hires thousands of people. We have coding weeks across Africa and faraway places in the world that would otherwise go uninitiated by teaching and learning and providing our systems. We go into 20,000 different university-level establishments and offer our technology on the arm so people can get access to it and they can get high-paying, good jobs when they come out, whether they work for SAP or not. If you take an issue like autism, we probably hired more autistic talent in the world than any other large-scale information technology company, which has made us much stronger. And people are like, that's a really nice thing to do. It's a smart thing to do. There's enormous talent and it comes from lots of different places. And to apply that skill and that intellectual firepower has made our company so much better. So I think it's really a combination of, making sure you perform, doing good, looking for opportunities to reach out to society. Take healthcare. A lot of people don't realize this, but cancer is a terrible demon. But in learning a lot about cancer, using HANA for human genome sequencing, and really getting into the DNA of the individual, you learn that 80% of the post-op treatment that most people get is completely wrong. And they'd be better off with doing nothing at all. Why? Because they haven't sequenced the treatment and personalized it to the individual data. And we have technology that can help solve that problem. And we make that available, and we do that in networks. If you think about people today traveling around the world, they're on the ground, they're in the air, they're in hotels, they're dining. All of those experiences can be completely mobile, and they can be probably 15% less expensive by using an effective business network. Why is that important? Well, that 15% can create thousands of jobs. It can help you build your next big idea product. It can help you create new markets. So I think a lot of this is building solutions that make sense. I'll give you another one. We always talk about an inclusive, diverse workforce, which nothing could be more important. Because the more diverse and inclusive a workforce is, the higher performing and happier it is. But, machines can do things that humans can't do. So humans all bring a certain bias to the workforce, not because they're bad, because they're human. But machines don't. So for example, in companies today, you have stacks of resumes being matched to a job profile by people doing tactical things. But they do those tactical things with their own headset, their own bias. Today, machines and artificial intelligence can do that at a fraction of the time and perfectly match the real profile with the real talent and remove gender and all other biases from the workforce. That's doing good for the world in the way you build your solutions. So I think when you think about machine learning, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, I have farmers in Italy that tell me, I want to protect my brand, protect the great product that I invent, and make sure that when it gets on a shelf in the United States, there's not a supermarket that has played it down with a 25% discount and not offered it the right way. I want to control the action from the farm to the table, farm to the fork, how someone experiences my product using the Internet of Things. I was with a CEO in Rome a few weeks ago. I sat down, he said, Bill, we have a great relationship. We give you this money, you do this for us, everything's good. But Bill, I want to put $4.7 billion on the table today. There's 3 things I want to do for my company to completely change the game. What is that? I want to reinvent my plants and digitize them. I want to digitize my processes. So the 90 things that I have to do to give my customer a perfect experience in any country I operate on is completely automated. And Bill, I have to digitize my people. I put $4.7 billion behind that. We could call that a lot of fancy IT terms, but companies today need to become digital fast and make everything simple. Because if they don't, the $4.7 billion won't help, and thousands of jobs will be forfeited. So this idea of innovation, automation, and doing it the right way with intelligence can fundamentally create a new economic opportunity unlike anything we've ever seen in the world. And it requires leadership, it requires change, and it requires innovation based upon software, because the soft stuff is the real stuff.
All right, thank you so much, Bill, for making sure that you do all you can to keep people in the game and make sure that no talent stays on the sidelines.
Well, I tell you, Bill, I want to thank you. It's an honor always to be with you. It's a great interview. You asked the best questions. And I can only say to the ladies and gentlemen in this room today, dream big. Don't take no for an answer when yes is available. And if you care to read The Winner's Dream, there's probably a few tidbits that I hope will help you. And a lot of people, especially university folks, tell me, you know, we didn't realize you did the audio. And I did the audio, and I did it myself. And I hope that in some way, if you throw me on an iPhone, from time to time you'll say, we had a moment together. Thank you very much.
All right. So do you have time?
Sure,
Sure, of course. Okay, so questions from the audience. Get you a microphone.
Hi, Bill. Jonathan Chung. I've actually been with SAP for 10 years now, so I've seen the company go up and down in terms of strategy and where we're going in the markets and everything, and certainly a lot of change in the IT landscape from traditional big IT to where we're at today. I think on the last point that you made in terms of becoming digital, and I work in consulting specifically with a lot of our customers doing implementations or otherwise. How do you see closing the gap between the time a technology is available ultimately until the time a big company, whether it's Fortune 10, Fortune 100, actually adopting the technology, but not just implementing, actually utilizing it in terms of how we envision it, how we sell it, and getting the full value of it?
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for your service to the company. A decade of your life is an important contribution, and I greatly appreciate it. Then the number one thing is, if you picture a building that goes 20 stories high, to drive real change and fundamentally get companies to get the idea, adopt it, and deploy it with rapidness, you have to stop getting off on the 3rd floor and go to 20. Because in 20, the air is a lot thinner. The people with the biggest business cards don't have any interest in office politics or middle management games. They got to win. And if you got the idea that can fundamentally take their strategy and their agenda and advance it quickly, they will do it. We have an obligation to shape that message and actually have the authentic innovation. And then all the pieces in the supply chain figured out. So it's turnkey, it's simple. And, it's kind of like that meeting that I told you about in Rome. If I was to tell you the true story about this, I met 2 guys that were on the 3rd floor that had control of the relationship. Great people. But the 4.7 billion idea was happening on the 20th floor, not the 3rd floor. They didn't even know about the 4.7 billion or the top 3 things. So if you never got to 20 and had the conversation, the world ain't going anywhere. So that's where it's at.
Hi, Bill. Thank you for coming today to speak with us. My name is Bill Lee, and the question I have is about persuasion and storytelling. As you've mentioned already that in terms of persuasion, it's a skill that's very important to have, and it's something that you've developed from your days back working at the deli and owning the deli. So I'm curious to hear, what would you say would be your top 3 tips for telling a good story to convince someone?
Well, the deli gets a lot of the credit, but, I never forget the first paper route. And, you deliver newspapers, and you better do a good job, because you deliver them Monday to Friday and Saturday and Sunday, but you collect on Saturday morning. And if you didn't give it to the customer just the way they wanted it and the paper got wet in the rain, you weren't going to get a good tip. So the idea is, whatever job you do it to the best of your ability. And recognize that there's an art not only to doing it to the best of your ability, but when Saturday morning comes along, have a little swagger, have a little personality. Did I give it to you the way you wanted it? Was it placed just right? Can I do any better? How was your week? What's going on? Gee, I noticed you got a new puppy. How's the puppy doing? You got to connect with people. They won't even notice you if you don't connect with people. And then there's this whole thing, well, I don't know if I want to connect with people because I'm an introvert, or if I connect with them, maybe they won't make me feel good. And I understand the risk associated with going out on a limb. But if you want the tip, you got to connect with them, you know? So I think it's living life to the fullest and constantly just challenging yourself to recognize that everything you do each and every day is in and of itself a story. And when you do it really well and you live the life you wanted to that day, or you didn't and you learn from it, that's a story. And life happens in moments. And you know, you could live 365 days in a year, but there's probably 5 that make the story list. But each day was an individual learning lesson that got you towards the 5 big ones that mattered. That's the key, you know? I'll tell you a funny story. I go into this appointment as a 21-year-old sales rep in New York City, and I'm traveling with the senior guy. So I got out of my training class with good marks. I was proud, you know, they give you a gold badge, everything. And then they say, but you got to go out with the senior guy, and he's going to teach you how to do this. It's 95 degrees. I had that $99 suit I told you about. I had a copy machine on my back, an electronic typewriter in one hand, and a briefcase filled with brochures in the other hand. We get a lead to go to a brownstone in Manhattan. It's 95 degrees in Manhattan in August. I could feel the sweat pouring down my cheeks. I get to the brownstone, there's no elevator. You go up the 4 flights of stairs, I walk in, and I survey the room, and I'm like, there she is. She's in charge, she's the boss. Chanel suit, very sharp, everything under control, good eye contact, I'm feeling strong, positive day going here. And then what happens? Life happens. A giant cat on my shoulder. This cat was as big as a tiger, and it put its claws through my suit and into my skin, and I'm like, I'm not so worried about the skin. I know that's gonna heal, but I'm not so sure about that suit when them claws go back out the other side. So I put the briefcase down, I put the electronic typewriter down, and I hold the cat. Good kitty, love the kitty, beautiful kitty. Everything good with the kitty. And the CEO looks over at me and she goes, you love animals, don't you? And I said, especially cats. And I'll tell you, Garfield has nothing on this cat. Good kitty. Everything perfect with the kitty. Now, if you read the room, you know the kitty is the president. And there's the CEO. So the guy who's taking me around said, Bill, you know, kid, it's time to plug in the machines and do the demo. So I said to the woman, I took out the, copier now. I said, by the way, a copy machine, you plug it in the wall, it's got a green button that says start, it makes a copy. And that typewriter is just electronic, so it's faster than the one you got over there. Do you really need to see a demonstration? And she goes, no, honey, I'll take 2. We get down to, there's a fact. I didn't put this in the book, by the way. We got to have some new material here. So I get downstairs to the street level, and the guy I'm traveling with looks over at me and he says, Bill McDermott, you're either going to be the CEO of Xerox someday or you're going to jail. And I'm like, what's with the jail thing around this place, And there's a funny story, too, really interesting. I got a call when I did the Puerto Rico assignment because this individual wanted me to be a character witness for him because he was arrested in a sting operation at JD's bar in Manhattan dealing cocaine. So you can't make this stuff up, but that is actually a true story. So what's the moral of that story? Read the room, be in the moment. I mean, like how many years later am I able to tell you a story because I didn't go in there like a robot plugging machines in when there was a cat to love?
Okay, well, can we take one more up here?
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
So I had a question on mentorship. How do you think our approach to mentorship should change as we move along in our lives? Because before we came to business school, it was a lot easier because the world saw us as kids, but now we're like grown up. So it's going to be a little bit harder to actually have those conversations and open up as much. So what's your approach on that?
For you to be mentored?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the key is with regard to your career, the most important person in your career is the person that you directly report to. Because people don't leave companies, they leave bosses. Lots of careers stall out because the individual reports to somebody that doesn't support them. So I'm not suggesting that you should trade off who you are and the principles you believe in to make your boss happy, but I am proposing that you have an honest, open relationship about your goals and dreams, how you can help them achieve their goals and dreams, and how together you have a social contract for goodness. Now, once you have established that and you do your job, a lot of people forget that one. Let me go get mentored. Who's going to mentor me today? Maybe I can get to the CEO and get a mentorship deal. The problem is the CEO, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to send a forward on the email, who's this cat and is he performing? Yeah, he's a great guy and he's top performer. Send him my way. Well, he hadn't done very much, but he keeps asking for a mentorship. Cancel the meeting. I'm flying somewhere far away. So you have to be realistic about this. But my belief in mentoring cannot possibly be overstated. You need role models, and you need to learn from people that take an interest in you, or if you've taken an interest in them and it's a really authentic conversation where you see something in them that you really can learn from. Even if you don't get them because you aimed a little bit too high, they will give you a mentorship relationship with a person that they trust, and then you'll be in a new network. And that's a very clever way to advance your goals and advance the conversation. That's what I believe. And I also, in our company, like I mentor several people, but I don't take on, like I'll mentor 100 people, because I can't fit it in. The ones that I chose for a reason, and then I stay ever true to my commitment. So I give them a certain number of hours per year. I tell them that it's going to be flexible and dynamic, and it's going to be changing here and there, but I commit this time to you. And in the end, all I ask you is to lay out specifically what you want, come to the meeting prepared or the phone conversation prepared, and tell me what you want to get from it. So we don't waste time talking about the weather. It's not that I don't care about the weather. It's just that we don't have that much time to waste. So don't waste people's time. Be very authentic, do your job, and go in with a purpose. And then you'll find these mentorship relationships really kind of make sense for both parties. And may I just say one thing on that? Don't be the smartest guy in the room or the smartest woman in the room with bad numbers. The one thing I always remind people is you got to perform. Like coming in with the clever list of excuses on all the reasons why things didn't happen is like a really dull approach. Now coming in with it didn't happen, there are no excuses. And these are the things that I'm going to do. That works. And we have to have a headset that appeals to the corner office if you want to get stuff done. And a lot of times I see those themes missing from these mentorship exchanges. You can get anything in this life you want if you help enough other people get what they want. So go in with a service headset and how your contribution to the greater good can make a difference. Not, I need, I want, it's all about me. I think there's two types of career professionals. One This is what I got to get from me. And then there's the other one. I'm doing all I can, and I'm going to be here for you because I got dreams and hopes and aspirations. That's the person that's going to run things someday. You just got to decide on who you want to be. I left the conversation this morning. Guy's like, Bill, I made the best decision of my life. I didn't take the money based on what you said in Winner's Dream. And I said, why do you think it's the best decision you ever made in your life? Because I can't eat more than one steak at a time. And the things that I love, I have. And I got so many more things that I've yet to do. And I didn't want to sell out just for the short change. And I'm like, you're getting it. You're going places.
Okay. Well, Bill, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you very
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Please accept this gift on behalf of Fuqua.
Thank you for your warm introduction. That was wonderful. Bill, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Go Duke! Go Blue Devils! You're winners!